when the movie started out with the soft, sad piano ballad,
I was like,
oh no.
Hi, I'm Luke.
And I'm Becca, and we're talking about movies like we know stuff.
Well, howdy, partner. Welcome back to our channel.
I knew you were going to do that.
And
there's a snake in my boot.
Somebody's poisoned the water hole. If you can't tell, we just saw Toy Story 5 in theaters. I know we're late to this one, but I feel like this one will be a good review for us. So we're going to start this off by doing a spoiler-free synopsis from Becca, and then we're going to do a spoiler-free review. Then we'll give you guys a warning and transition into a spoiler review so that you guys don't get spoiled on anything that you might be wary of, I guess. So
let's not spill the tea.
Yes, exactly, Mrs. Nesbitt. Anyway, kicking it over to Becca for the synopsis. Go ahead.
So if you were like me and you wondered what story could there be left after Toy Story 3, and then Toy Story 4 happened, and then you wondered, okay, what story could be left after this? Well, there is. So
there's always another story.
We're really focusing on Bonnie and her struggles growing up, and really this movie is shining light on how much this current generation is dealing with technology and devices and screens competing with imagination and free play at an age where that should be still developmentally appropriate. Bonnie's only 8. She definitely should still be playing with dolls. But anyway, so Toy Story 5 is focusing on her starting to come into adolescence and really focusing again on Jessie's insecurities and her struggles trying to really find her worth. You know, she's still struggling with her worth as a toy with her new kid. It's bringing up feelings from her memories of abandonment, and I think that's the most spoiler-free I can go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good one. So we'll start this off with a spoiler-free review. So I'll just start off by saying that I think this movie, to me, met and slightly exceeded my expectations. I thought it was a fun and enjoyable movie, but I think I'm tired of the Toy Story story. I don't know how you feel about that.
I feel like you're waiting for the internet to jump on you.
I am absolutely waiting for the internet to jump on me.
Hordes of Disney adults.
Yes, I'm ready. I'm so ready for it.
I pretty much feel the same.
Okay.
I think I kind of called this in the car when I said, I think this movie is going to be like a lesser Inside Out 2, where we're going to be addressing more modern, updated issues that the current generation of children are facing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much what we got. I'm not saying that that's bad, but I think as far as movies addressing generational issues, I thought Inside Out 2 did it a little better. But I still enjoyed the movie more than I expected. It was funnier than I expected. It had some heartstring pulling moments that I honestly didn't expect in a good way.
Yeah.
So I still did enjoy it, but I don't know if it needed to exist. I think this movie has more of a place in the universe than Toy Story 4, which I still would argue didn't need to exist.
Right. Yeah.
As evidenced by you saying I don't even remember that movie. I don't remember the plot.
It wasn't until we started talking about it that I started to remember pieces of Toy Story 4.
What I remember the most is Duke Kaboom.
Yeah, Duke Kaboom was amazing.
That's what I remember the most about Toy Story 4. Not offensive.
No.
Just kind of unnecessary. And this has more of a right to exist, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Sounds stingier than
It does.
I mean it to be.
It does, yeah. And I would say also that, like you said, the heartstring moments were interesting, but they weren't as strong. I know we talked about this in a previous animated review that we did, where we talked about Pixar and how they're kind of almost judged on if they can make you cry or not. And this one didn't. And so I'm probably unfairly judging this one as not nearly as good because it didn't make you feel something or teary-eyed for a lot of things. I would say there were some good emotional moments, but I would say that it misses the mark on making a real true connection to make you feel something.
There was a moment that got me, but that might be more tied to the fact that I'm a girl, and we can talk about them in the spoilers.
Sure, we can definitely do that. And I think this movie also severely missed Randy Newman.
Well, he still did the score, though.
Did he?
But he didn't do any original songs.
Okay.
He didn't sing about what he saw, and that is always a miss.
That's true. All right, well, I guess I didn't really notice Randy Newman as much, and maybe that's because he wasn't singing, but I think the music was weaker than the other Toy Story movies.
There's a lot of When Somebody Loved Me reprises. That was almost the main theme of the score.
Because of the story and because Jesse is the focus in this one. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
When the movie started out with the soft, sad piano ballad,
I was like,
I was
oh,
like, oh no. This is going to be the most depressing of the installments, isn't it?
Yeah, I was ready. I was buckling up for something really emotionally intense.
Getting ready to be sad, or you're pressured into sending money to animals.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So, but overall, it's an entertaining movie. Kids will like it. There's some good over the kids' head adult humor that was enjoyable to me. So, I would say not necessary to go see this one in the theaters. I think it would be perfectly acceptable to watch it on Disney Plus when it comes to Disney Plus. That's my thought.
That's fair, but I personally want to say let's keep movie theaters alive.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying don't support movie theaters. I'm just saying this one is not one that I would go to the movie theater for if I know what I knew now. Knew then what I knew now.
I do think it would be a good movie to take kids to. I actually think adults will enjoy this more than kids.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think the kids will enjoy the humor that they can understand, but I feel like the adults will appreciate the themes more, especially adults like us who frequently fall into YouTube rabbit holes about how technology is ruining our lives.
Right.
This will really entertain and affirm those adults and things that we are seeing and things that we are fearful of. Depending on how developmentally advanced the kids are, I think it will hit them too.
Right. And I think we're more aware of the themes because we kind of grew up with the modern computer era. Now we weren't there for the dawn of computers, but we were there pretty early on in like when household computers started to become like a real thing.
Yeah. And that's something I definitely want to touch on,
Yeah.
especially how this is going to affect the millennial generation because we remember play before and after technology.
Right, exactly. And the generations now, some of them don't even know what it was like before then.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's our review, spoiler-free version. And if you are worried about spoilers because you haven't seen this movie yet, we would encourage you guys to click away now. But before you click away, could you please leave us a like and a subscribe and tell us in the comments what your favorite childhood memory was of your life and playing with toys.
I like that one.
Thanks.
That's a really good idea.
Thank you.
I feel like I could fill our own comment section with all my memories.
There you go.
Should not be good for engagement.
No, that would be terrible for engagement. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll be back with a spoiler review. All right, and we're back. This is the spoiler version. So if you are trying to avoid those, I would click away now. Becca, give us your spoiler thoughts on the movie.
So to be honest, it's not like there are that many juicy spoilers. I feel like you can surmise a lot just from the trailer.
I would agree.
I do think the trailer did make it clear that Jesse would be the lead.
Yes, agreed.
And I love Jesse. I'm an adult woman and I was Jesse for Halloween last year, so I'm a fan. Toy Story 2 is arguably my favorite, actually, of the whole series. So I'm very much a fan of the Jesse and Bullseye editions.
Yeah.
But I don't know if she's a strong enough character to be a lead.
At least she's not written strongly enough. Yeah, I would agree with that.
That it felt like a lot of the same. Oh, we already know about Jesse's trauma because we've been talking about it for many movies.
Many movies. Since the second one, in fact.
I feel like the second one was appropriate, but then maybe a passing comment here or there.
Yeah.
In others. But I feel like that the theme was tired. We've been watching Jesse be sad about Emily since we were 12.
Yeah.
And I'm not sad about it anymore.
Yeah, it feels tired, maybe is the right word for this theme. So, yeah, I wasn't super invested in the story, I would say.
Yeah. I was invested in the message of kids not playing anymore and the view of all the kids sitting in their homes on their iPads. Again, I feel like it was a very timely message. And as a parent, it was making me ask questions like, oh man, I really want my child to play and have, in my mind, the kind of childhood that I had. But what kind of concessions do parents have to make when other kids aren't playing?
Right.
Or when they're primarily playing games online that I could see would be very easy to say, well, I'll buy them a thing so they can play with their friends. But it's made me wonder, like, oh man, are kids in a loneliness epidemic? Is there a loneliness epidemic right now for children?
I'm not sure. I hope not, but I'm not sure.
Again, it's so easy because you think back to our parents and they never gave us a device thinking we would become zombies.
Right.
They gave them to us eventually, probably because our friends had them, we asked for them, or convenience.
Yeah, right.
That I know that my parents never bought me the greatest cell phone, but they eventually bought me simple track phones just for the convenience of being able to call them to let them know band practice was over.
Right, exactly. After school activities, that's when I got my cell phone.
So it spirals, and it show Bonnie's parents giving her version, that universe's version of the iPad.
Yeah.
And it's because they're trying to help her find a way to play with other kids when they're not playing outside. And it's a slippery slope.
It is, yeah. It's a very easy way to distract and pacify your children, and that's scary, I would say. It's easy to fall into that trap, but it's also scary that it's so easy.
And it's easy to fall into the lie that it will help them fit in. To a degree, it will, I guess, because they can talk about the same games and things.
Right.
But it doesn't get them outside. It doesn't give them meaningful connections in person, which we all know we need.
Right, yeah.
And I feel like this struck a chord with me because I remember when AIM got big, probably when I was in maybe 6th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. And I do remember I started to get frustrated with just little friends in my neighborhood because they stopped wanting to play outside and they wanted just to stay inside and instant message each other from the big family computers.
Right, yep.
And even, I will say, I feel like I was ahead of my time in the sense that I said, this is dumb. We could just go talk to them. Or, we are children and our only job is to have fun. Why are we sitting inside? Let's play with Barbies. Let's go in the pool. Let's play insert game here. And I ended up gravitating to other friends who still wanted to act like kids.
Right.
And there were times where I felt like the weird, lonely kid because I still wanted to play dress up. Maybe not 6th grade, but definitely probably still in 4th grade.
Yeah, right.
I was playing with American Girl dolls. I took them everywhere.
Yeah.
And I wasn't that excited about email. I wasn't that excited about AIM. I would have much rather just gone to somebody's house and played.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and at least with AIM and it being on the family computer, at least it was stationary. You couldn't take that with you. Nowadays with messaging and texting being basically, free in big air quotes, you could message with anybody. I mean, to play devil's advocate a little bit, a lot of my friends are far away, and so my primary use of social is to make social interaction is to text them or to message them on various messaging apps and things like that. So
but as a kid, that was
as a kid, that's not a reality. Yeah, exactly. And there is a social aspect you have to learn, I think, outside of text messaging or messaging over apps and things like that. You have to be able to read people's faces and understand emotions and reactions to things. Making eye contact is a really hard thing for kids these days. And
how can you learn how to read a room?
Exactly.
If you're never in rooms to read.
And I feel like if you're missing that aspect of it, you are missing an element of communication. And I freely admit that. There are ways around it when you're texting. Either you know the person so well that they're being sarcastic or they're upset about something. But if you never have those strong social interactions where you start to learn how people react to things or what their emotions maybe look like during communication, then it's hard to take that offline into texting or text messaging.
You just can't. I mean, I've never made a friend over texting.
Yeah, I have, but that's just the way of the world nowadays. So, at least a little bit.
I guess.
A little bit, yeah. I'm saying there is a beneficial aspect to the fact that we're all connected through texts now, but I'm not saying that it's always good or that you should introduce it as soon as possible so that your children can socialize around the world. I don't think that's a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that is, when it comes to how there is some gray area in the use of tech, I feel like that's where the writing in this movie shines. A great Pixar movie shows both sides, and it doesn't tell stories in black and white, and it doesn't have clear villains.
Yes.
And again, I keep comparing this movie to Inside Out too, but I feel like it's kind of the same script where even the villain starts out very, I'm here to help this child. I'm here to make their life better. And then they turn kind of into a dictator, and then things go badly, and then they see the error of their ways, and they find a way to come back and find a middle ground.
Yeah, a moderation level.
Level
exactly.
Where the evil iPad does end up coming around and helping to, spoiler, connect Bonnie with a real human whom she ends up playing with like a normal kid, but they end up connecting over a text message. So there is some room for technology to live, it is not all bad.
Agreed.
But obviously, taking out any element for these kids of imaginative play and organic relationships clearly it's not going to work. It's not going to create a generation that is empathetic and functioning.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to talk about touches a little bit on the fact that you said that Jessie is the main character, which I wholeheartedly agree with, Jessie being the main character. I feel like Woody and Buzz taking a back seat is a fine narrative choice, but I feel like they went a little bit of a step too far in kind of emasculating Woody and Buzz a little bit. This has like a big girl power, girls can do anything that boys can do kind of storytelling to it. And I wasn't a big fan of that. Where Jessie takes the initiative and kisses Buzz, or Jessie's the husband at the wedding kind of thing. Wiz and Buddy seemed very meek and mild in this one, and they were much more gung-ho and rambunctious and maybe manly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Honestly, it didn't occur to me while I was watching it, but now that you've said something, yeah, I think the story was less interesting because at its heart, the Toy Story movies are buddy comedies. And taking the spotlight off of the two main buddies who are very charismatic and their friendship has been carrying the movies this whole time did seem unnecessary. I don't feel like the franchise was at a place to say, you know what we really need to do? Take out the main characters.
Right. Yeah.
Or significantly dim them. And I've seen this in other children's movies and I can't think of a good example right now, but I hate the trope of the characters who are clearly a couple and the man is like, I'm going to propose and I'm so nervous. We've been together for like decades or at least like 3 life-threatening adventures together. And I'm going to ask them to marry me. And it's dumb.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
It's written weird, for sure.
It's dumb.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad I'm not alone in that one. It was...
And Jessie's been a strong character the
she
whole
is.
time.
Yeah.
The whole time.
She's a strong, independent cowgirl, and that's great.
She's great.
But she's also allowed to fall in love with Buzz. That's okay,
She's a great heroine.
Yeah.
But she doesn't need to wear the pants in every situation she's in. Buzz does save her in multiple movies.
Yeah, right. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention as well and talk about a little bit is I feel like there were too many plot lines in this movie. Like there was the new Tech Buzz plot line, there was the Jessie plot line, then there was the Woody and there was the Woody plot line, and then there was the Jessie and Buzz plot line, and then there was the lily pad plot line. There was so many different plot lines, and it felt a little jarring. I think probably the worst part was the new Tech Buzzes. As cool as they were and as fun as they were and as critical as they were to the end of the movie, just randomly cutting to them being, default programming Buzz, in a group setting, basically.
It just kept bringing the plot to a halt.
It was, I think that was probably just a sell more merch, quite frankly. I guarantee we're going to get a new Buzz Lightyear that has the X-Wing propellers and some sort of Buzz Lightyear drone merch or something.
Buzz drones.
We're going to get a Buzz drone merch at some point in time for sure. So sign me up for that, I guess. I don't know. Anyway.
No, the only plot line that matters is Bonnie.
Yeah, like a hybrid between Bonnie finding friends and finding a balance between technology and
the
a lot of
toys trying to assist.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think they should have made it more cohesive that way. So.
Yeah, it was a little messy. A little messy.
Yep. It's cool to see how far Pixar has come with faces, because you remember how horrific some of the Toy Story 1 faces were.
Or just the coloring, how Andy had gray hair in the second Toy Story. That's just burned in my memory.
Yeah, he's an old man.
But no, obviously the animation continues to excel in every Toy Story iteration.
Right.
But the last spoiler I think I want to touch on for something that surprised me that I did like was Jessie coming again upon the tree with a tire swing where she would play with her original kid, and she finds a time capsule, and it is from Emily's daughters. She put all of her favorite things into this lunchbox, and she discovers that Emily named her daughter Jessie. And that actually did make me
that was probably the closest.
Teary.
Yeah, that was the closest I probably got to being teary.
And I think that's because I was such a doll kid. I loved Barbies, but I really loved my American Girl dolls. And my first one, who was my favorite, Samantha, she went everywhere with me. She had outfits. She was my buddy. And maybe that's just a girl thing, is we all have that one doll that we remember just being our favorite doll of all time, and Jessie feeling like I still had like a legacy, like I did, like I had an impact. Even though she grew out of playing with me, she still remembered me. She commemorated me and her family. I thought that was actually beautiful, genius Pixar writing.
It was very good. And it also brings nice closure to the Jessie story.
Maybe we can stop hearing about it.
Yeah, maybe Toy Story 6 will not include
Jessie Trauma Dump.
Jessie Trauma Dump.
So
Thank
much.
you. Yes. All right, well, with that review, I think we're going to start putting some scores to it. And I'm going to let you go first, Becca.
I think it's a 7.
Okay. I think I land on that one as well. I think I land on a 7.
Maybe I'm going to give it a 7.5 because there are some really clever jokes.
Okay.
There really are some really clever jokes, especially anything involving like the techie toys. The evil like lily pad scrolling herself while she's talking to Buzz and not paying attention to him.
Also, I'm a sucker for toilet jokes, so the fact that there's a toilet paper character, he had some good lines, like, well, flush me. So good.
I can only count to 2.
Yeah.
So
good
maybe
lines.
because there's enough lines that kept us laughing and kept us invested in a story that wasn't always streamlined. 7.5.
Okay.
7.5.
I'm going to stick with the 7, but that's fair. So, all right, well, that wraps up our review of Toy Story 5. We really hope you guys enjoyed listening and or watching. Please remember to leave us a like, comment, and subscribe. Please check out our last review on
Remarkably Bright Creatures,
which was a great recommendation. I think you guys really like that review. If you haven't seen that movie yet, check it out, please.
Yeah, definitely more emotionally impactful than this one.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great night.
Bye.